Welcome to Live, Love, Engage, the podcast where we share practical advice from a spiritual perspective on how to create a life and business with more impact, influence, and income. I am your host, Gloria Grace Rand, the insightful copywriter and founder of the L.O.V.E method. My mission is to help you stop doubting yourself so you can live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically. Namaste and welcome to another edition of Live, Love, Engage. I am Gloria Grace Rand, as the intro just said, and I am delighted to be with you today. We're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects with a woman I've become acquainted with through Facebook. Actually, I know for quite a while, and I'm going to bring her on and just right now and welcome her to the show, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about why she is an expert in money and money mindset. So first off, I want to welcome Erin Newman to Live, Love, Engage.
Hello, Gloria. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm glad you're here. I'm very glad to have you today because, as I said, this is one of my favorite subjects because money and money mindsets and money blocks are things that I've had to work through myself. And,
we all.
yes. And, all these old patterns and things that weren't even mine that I kind of took on. But let me enlighten our audience. For those of you who either you're watching today live on either Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, or you are listening to this recording on one of the lovely podcast platforms, let me tell you who Erin is. She is a speaker, author, money mindset mentor, and Soul Fire Ignitrix for women entrepreneurs. I definitely want to ask you about that later. Don't let me forget that.
Okay.
She helps business owners to overcome mindset blocks to money so that they can truly do what lights them up in their business and make the income they desire. And through a mixture of mindset and energetic healing tools, she also helps women in particular to finally vanquish those mind gremlins, follow their soul purpose, and create a new pathway to abundance, success, and joy. So I am curious. One of the things I always like to do is to ask our guests really what prompted you to get into this line of work? How did you become this money mindset mentor?
Well, I think like most of us in the healing professions, we had to do our own work around, the thing that we're healing. I don't know if I lost you, Gloria. I hope not.
No. I'm here.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. So, like everybody, I had to go through my own process of healing those stories. And, I didn't grow up with a lot of money. So, and we were always in these places, I think, of big disparity. So we didn't have a lot of money, but we would always go to the best school system, which meant, usually in America, that a lot of times, the people around you had more, right? So I would see that growing up, and obviously that made a big impression on me. And then when I was in my early 20s and moving through my 20s, I started to discover money mindset work and really being able to, not just in the realm of money, but in my entire life, being able to change my thoughts and how much that really impacted what I was seeing around me. And I think that's probably the starting point for all of us as healers or those who are on a healing journey, which is really starting to take responsibility for our lives and what's happening in our lives. And so, I underwent that process for many things and still am undergoing that process, of course. But a big piece of that for me was healing my money mindset and really looking into what are the things, like you already named, what are the things that were handed down to me. And really not even just from our parents, but from society, from our ancestors, our grandparents. I came from a long line of the very humble and, you don't talk about money. You have to work really hard for your money. I have that on both sides, as many of us do. And so when you start looking into that and start exploring those things, it just for me, it just had to become part of my work. You know, it had to
Mm.
become part of the work that I was doing out in the world.
Well, I appreciate that you are doing that because, yeah, it is. It's so challenging because, especially, I think for entrepreneurs, you'll watch other people seem to be really successful, and you are struggling, and you're wondering, okay, I think I'm doing the same things, and I seem to be taking the same actions, and I'm following, this mentor, and I'm doing all these things, and yet the money just doesn't seem to be coming in. But have you found that in working with clients, that a similar thing, and how then do you help them with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to name too that it's always a process, right? I mean, even when you get to a point that you thought like, okay, at this point I'm going to feel like I'm there and I won't have to work on any of this anymore. I know for my clients and for myself, even getting to a certain point in your income, you still feel like, okay, well, there's a next level and there's more for me and there's more expansion here and there's more growth here. And then you still come up against those old money blocks. So what I always share with people about this work is that we are not looking to get to a space where we never have a block again, we never have a fear again, we never have a doubt again. We're looking to get to a space where we can come back into alignment much faster. We can see what's showing up for us much faster. And again, I mean, this isn't just money mindset work. This is all of our work, which is, it's not about never having the problem or the issue show up again. It's about getting back into alignment, seeing it, bringing it to our conscious awareness much faster so that we can move through it much faster and get back to, whatever it is, whatever moves us forward, even if that for that day is a nap, right? It doesn't have to be this big action, but, stepping back into aligned action all the time. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah, I can totally relate to that because I've that's been a hard lesson. Yeah, especially a few years ago for me, it was wanting to be fixed. I was like, when am I going to be? When am I just?
yes,
Everything's going to be there. I'm going to have it,
yes.
and it's like, no, life is a journey. Okay, you're going to expand and contract, and so I've gotten to be more at peace with that, and can appreciate too, as you said, that it is really about recognizing maybe old patterns and going, wait a minute, okay, do I really want to do that again, or I've learned how to handle this better. I don't have to go down that road again. Uh, so tell us a little bit, though, I guess maybe if you can maybe elaborate a little bit more about
Sure.
why is money mindset in particular, having I wouldn't say a good money mindset, but maybe having a uh, expansive money mindset. Oh, yeah, I like that. Is important for, to be able to get into that next level in business.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think, honestly, I think all entrepreneurs are working on this, even if they don't consciously recognize it, right? Because if you are getting to some point in your business and you're staying at that same point over and over again, right? Maybe it's a certain income level, maybe it's a certain number of clients, a certain level of success. You are going to have to work on your money mindset in order to get to that next level. Again, whether that's conscious or not. You might find a different way of telling yourself, certain beliefs in order to get you to that next level. But I think it's really cool when you can start to bring this work to your conscious awareness so that, again, you get to come back into alignment much, much faster. And, the way I do that with my clients is through tapping or EFT. And so we're actually looking into what is your subconscious telling you? What are those very specific blocks that come up for you? Um, and I think they all have personally the same core, which is I'm not enough in some way, um, some thread of there's something wrong with me specifically that doesn't allow me to get to where I want to be. And we have that manifested in a bunch of different ways, right? We all have our own version of that. But I think that's what the core belief is about, is I'm not enough in some way. And so when we can look at how does that manifest for me? How does that show up for me? What are the patterns there? What are the memories there? What are the um, things that I have associated with that belief? Why do I believe that to be true? And again, that might be part of the I have to work really hard, or I'm not I'm not quite as educated or eloquent or pretty enough or, whatever. To get to that next level, we want to look into those. Where did those get instilled? Again, maybe that's ancestral, maybe it's from your family of origin, maybe it's from society, right? So we want to look into, where did those come from? Where is your subconscious telling you you're not enough in some way? And then can we release them? Can we let go of those beliefs? And again, it's not about releasing them forever and ever, but releasing them for right now, releasing them in this moment so that you can take the action you want to take, or, do whatever it is that you want to do in your business.
Now, you mentioned that you use tapping or EFT. Can you explain a little bit more about what that is for people? Because there are still some people out there
Yeah, of course.
don't know what that is.
Of course. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I kind of just dropped that on you guys. So it's really an energetic processing tool. It's been really well researched at this point. The Veteran Affairs uses it for depression and anxiety with returning soldiers and veterans. So again, it's been really well researched. It's out there in the medical community at this point. So it's not just the woo-woo people who are using it. But I really do love it in a woo-woo way, because it's getting into, by tapping on these energy meridians in your body, you're accessing that stuck energy and allowing it to be released. And I think it gets into your subconscious really quickly. So as you're doing that tapping, your body is connected to what you're saying, and you're able to process through. I'm just actually showing you guys what this looks like by tapping on these parts of my body. You're able to process through where those things are getting stuck in your system, right? So if it's an older memory or if it's an old belief, you can actually release that through tapping. And again, it's really great if we can get into the roots of it. Where did this come from? How did this show up first for you? What do you first remember around this? And tap on that a little bit. And sometimes I'll have people just kind of tap a couple rounds on that very specific memory and see if we can get those things to disassociate, right? So that if it does start showing up in your world again, it doesn't have such a strong trigger anymore, or it shouldn't have that strong trigger anymore.
Now, I know one of the things you, in preparing for this interview, you had mentioned that you wanted to talk about the number one easy way to release money blocks. So is EFT really what you would consider the best way to do it, or is there something else?
I honestly think you can start with journaling,
Okay.
because I think it's hard for people to, well, I shouldn't say that. You can tap on your own. You can definitely tap on your own. And I do, and people do, and you definitely should try it. But journaling is such an easy way to kind of look into, what is my subconscious telling me? And one of my favorite questions is really asking yourself, at the top of your piece of paper, whatever your goal is. And again, that could be clients, that could be income, whatever, maybe it's a health goal even. Asking yourself, why don't I deserve to be there? And then just writing out whatever comes up, because those are the blocks. Those are the things that your subconscious believes to be true. And even if your conscious mind is like, oh my gosh, no, Gloria, like, you're awesome, you're amazing, right? All the things we want to be true, that's cool. Right. But what does your subconscious tell you? And that's what we want to look at. So yeah, for me, the process always starts with journaling if I'm doing it on my own. If you're doing it with a practitioner or with somebody else, with a coach or somebody, then they're able to ask those questions when you're sort of in that state of openness. But yeah, I think journaling is the best way to get there for yourself, if you're just kind of doing this on your own.
Yeah, I love journaling. Whenever I've got something going on in my life that's either stressing me out, or I'm frustrated, or what have you, it's so good to be able to do that. And I know I've recommended to my clients to do that as well. And I remember I had one client who, she was really stuck on something, and she's like, okay, that's right, Gloria said I should journal. And so she came back to me later and said, it really did work. I'm like, yeah, I know it does.
Yeah. I mean, there's something about that magic of, like, like a conduit between your subconscious and the pen, like, that you don't have to process it consciously. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's the key too, is to don't overthink it. Just kind of like, just write whatever.
Just write.
Yeah. And it's all good. Now, I mentioned in the intro, and I wanted to get back to that a little bit, because you say that you describe yourself as a Soul Fire Ignitrix.
Yeah.
So explain a little bit about that. That is very intriguing to me.
Yeah. So, like a lot of us in the entrepreneur space, I've gone through so many different titles. When I very first started out in my business, I was a life coach, and then I really quickly moved into really only working with entrepreneurs pretty much from the very beginning, because I just love entrepreneur energy. Um, and so I was calling myself for a business coach for a while, because I really only do work with business owners and I work on their business. But for me, what's always so exciting, and has been from the very beginning, was what lights up your soul? What do you really want to do in this world? And if you, for me, if I was calling myself a business coach, I didn't feel like I was really getting to that. People weren't coming in the door knowing that's what we were going to be doing. So I wanted to make it really, really clear that we were going to be talking about what lights up your soul, and how do we get more of that in your work and in your business. And of course, still create the income you want to see, because I think that's a big fear is, oh, if I go do what I love, then I'm not going to have that income show up. Right. So wanted to make sure that was really clear for people. And I just love the idea of really being able to, get back to what lights up your soul for people. So that's where that title came from.
Very good. Yeah, it's interesting. I've been through the same type of thing, and as as I think anyone who has been in business for a while, you have to sort of evolve and change, and sometimes it's because circumstances affect you, and then we've certainly had that the last couple of years, has
Yeah.
how had people decide to pivot, or had to pivot, I should say, even, and it's okay. And I think what you touched on there, though, I think is really important for entrepreneurs in particular, and it's something I've dealt with too in like working with branding coaches over the years, is to the fact that you started off a little bit more generic and business coach, but then you realized that that really wasn't who you even wanted to be able to. You wanted to attract a certain type of person, and for you to be able to now declare that, yeah, I'm a Soul Fire Ignitrix. There are certain people who are going to say, ooh, and there's other people who are going to go, ugh. But you want the people who are going to lean in, right?
Right. Yep, exactly. Yeah. And it's funny too, because it's there's also partially a piece about knowing your audience too, right? Like,
Mhm.
I don't walk into a cocktail party telling people I'm a Soul Fire Ignitrix, because I just like, that's going to take 20 minutes of explanation, right? So usually I start with, I'm a coach for entrepreneurs. If they want to know more, then we go deeper,
Right.
but like you said, for the people who know, they know. And so, I think I think when you're first starting in business, you get really tripped up on that. Like, oh, I gotta have to explain this title to everybody. It's like, I'm not going to explain it to my neighbor when I'm walking the dog, but
Right.
to people who are in the online coaching industry, they know what that means, or at least have a sense of what that means. And they're either really turned on by it, or they're like, see you later, crazy lady, So,
Absolutely. One of the things I do also like to talk to people about is sometimes, tapping into like when you first got started. So, to learn about that entrepreneurial journey a little bit. So I was wondering if maybe if it's okay if you could share, were there some maybe early mistakes that you made that you've learned from, and now and you
there's daily mistakes. Oh
no.
yeah, daily. It's funny, because there's so few things that I look back on and actually think of as a mistake anymore, really. I think a lot of times people say, oh, I invested in this and it didn't work out, or I invested in that and it didn't work out. And there's nothing I regret in my business, having invested in, and even at really, really big levels, I don't regret any of it. Even if I look back and think, okay, maybe that coach or that investment wasn't the right thing for me, or the right person for me, even then it gave me a really great sense of, okay, this is not how I want to run my business. I've worked with some really masculine energy coaches, and it was very much about the structure, and you do your webinar this way, and you structure your funnel this way. And I walked out of those thinking, I don't want to do it like that. If that's what this means, then I don't want to do this. I could just go back and get a job, right? So there's nothing anymore in my business that I look at as a mistake. I always just ask the question, is this where I'm being guided? Is this what's showing up for me? And if the answer is yes, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to find the money. I'm going to figure out a way to do it. And at the same time, I want to just really acknowledge that, like, I have a lot of advantages in my life. And so when I was first starting my business, I have a husband who has a job. And so there was a safety net there for me. There was a way for me to say, okay, I'm going to quit my corporate job and go do this other thing and still know that we would still have a roof over our heads. Right. So that was, that's a lot of privilege. And it's something I really don't take for granted. I'm really thankful for. And, it shifts a little bit of what you can do in your business, what I could do in my business and what I could step into. And at the same time, you still have to work for this, right? You still have to create this out of nothing. Nobody handed me a client list. Nobody handed me, here's the magical pathway or anything like that. So I still had to discover all those things for myself. And I think every entrepreneur does, no matter if you have this magical, 5-step plan that somebody handed to you, you're still going to have to figure your own way out. And I think that's the hardest thing to figure out when you're first starting out, because you do start going after all those different shiny objects and if I just learn this, then my business is going to take off. If I just learn this, then my business is going to take off. And I think all of those things go into the magical stew of what makes you you, but none of them are the one thing, right? None of them are the, absolute, this is it. This is what's going to take me to success. Like, they just all filter into your unique way of going forward, your unique way of expressing yourself in the world. And yeah, that was a long-winded answer.
No, but it was a good answer though. And I appreciate it because I have been there too. And it doesn't do any good to like beat yourself up over mistakes, but instead treat it more as learning experiences.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of learning experiences
Yeah.
too. But I agree with you is that at the time it seemed right because otherwise you wouldn't have done it.
Right.
And
Yep.
and if you can take, there have been things I've invested in, some I didn't spend a lot, some I did spent a lot on, but there were still things that I got out of value.
Right.
I
Right.
didn't maybe achieve the ultimate goal of what the program was intended to do. And part of that was because I wasn't ready. And
Yes.
that
Yes.
happens too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's so many times where, even recently it was a 6 or 8 week, I can't remember, 8-week group coaching program with another coach. And the whole point of the program was to put together our own group. And I had run groups in the past, but, really starting to formulate that and formulate the messaging around it. And I got to the end of that group and I said, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. The whole thing that I put together and spent 8 weeks building. And I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't feel like doing it. I don't feel like doing it right now. Maybe it'll come later. I don't know.
Right.
But it's actually now come to fruition months later. But I felt kind of at the end of that group, I kind of felt like a loser. Like, oh my God, we spent all this time on this, and I spent all this energy and this money and to put this thing together, and I don't even want to do it anymore. And then it was just the timing, and it's kind of like, now it all comes to fruition, and I've been able to use a lot of that in what I'm now offering to people. And so it's just kind of, it all, it all helps. It all moves you forward in some way. And I don't, like you said, you can't regret any of them. They're just opportunities for learning, and you just keep moving forward.
Yeah, I like to say everything happens in divine timing, and
Yes.
so we can just trust that there is a reason that for whatever that didn't work or it didn't seem right, because now you are able to use that, and that's the important thing. So it all works out, which is great.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, when you're working with clients, what brings you the most joy when you're working with someone?
It's honestly when they realize that they can skip over that part of the process that they thought they really had to do in order to do the thing they really want to do. So usually there's a bunch of beliefs about, I need to do X, Y, and Z first in order to create X in my life and in my business. And when we start working on those mindset beliefs, it's with the understanding that you have all that you need right now in order to do exactly what you want to do. And whether that's in your marketing, whether that's in your launch, whether that's in your, it could be any aspect of your business. But, for instance, one of my clients, Courtney, came in and she really wanted to be a speaker, a thought leader. I want to be speaking on stages. I want to get paid for that. And she was like, well, I know I have to start with coaching first. I have to do the whole coaching route first. And what we really worked on for her was skipping over that whole stage, because she didn't want to do the coaching at all. Actually, she was like, actually, I don't really want to do that. I just want to go straight to the speaking part. And so, that might sound obvious, but like we all have these beliefs about, okay, it's going to take X, Y, and Z steps. It's going to take these 3 things, or I'm going to have to do my launch this way in order to, have 10 people in my group. And it's really getting into the knowledge that if you're seeing this, if God, source, universe is showing you this vision, then there isn't anything you have to do first, right? You can just step into the vision already. And so really, getting to work on those blocks with people and getting to work on those beliefs with people that just catapult them into the thing, whatever the thing is for them. I want to write my book. I want to be on stages. I want to be getting paid to speak, whatever they want to do. Let's do that. Let's do that already without having to do the things that society told you had to do, or even the coaching industry told you you had to do first. So, yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I love being able to see people make those leaps are really great when they can, realize that they can skip over things and they don't have to obsess over what they were obsessing over. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything I should have asked you about regarding, overcoming money mindset blocks, or anything that I haven't asked you about that we should touch on? Anything else that's important?
What's coming for me right now is really that ancestral piece of the money mindset blocks, because I think this stuff is really old, and it's really, I just feel sometimes this weight of what's been passed down to us and what's been handed down to us. And, especially for women of color who, came from an enslaved population, think about the weight of that's been passed down to people. And, when we really start to shift and look at those really old stories, those really old beliefs, those really old traumas that are stored in our bodies, and get to release them, we're healing that not just for ourselves, but we're healing that for our descendants, for our communities, for the people around us, so that they can see, oh, look, there's someone who looks like me, whatever that means to you. There's someone that looks like me who's doing this thing, and we get to go out there and shine our lights in that way. Oh my God, that's so cool. And I get to make really great money at it. Oh my God, that's so cool, right? And so I think it's important that, yes, it's cool to heal your money blocks. Yes, it's cool to do this work, but we don't just do it for ourselves. We're doing it for the people around us who look at somebody, maybe they look at me or you, Gloria, or somebody, somebody around us and say, look at her. She did this and she came from this background, and she, didn't grow up with a silver spoon in her mouth, and she's still doing this. Oh my gosh, that's possible for me too. So yeah, remembering that this work is not just about us. It's not just what we're doing for ourselves in our own little room, in our journal. Like, we are doing this so that the world gets to expand and grow and have unlimited possibility for all people.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was looking actually at your website, and I noticed that in the about section, you talk about that you're very passionate about speaking out and really helping, like, people of color. Do you want to expand on that a little bit about, what
Sure.
prompted that for you?
Yeah. So I'll probably get emotional. Sorry. I just feel like there's been, for me, it's been a real spiritual awakening to really look at what's happening in our world, what's happening to people of color, and what that has looked like. And I feel guilty that it's taken me this long. I feel guilty that, you know, that awareness has come so late in my life. And I lived so long as a white woman who said, well, you know, we're all equal. Racism is, you know, when Obama was elected in the United States, there was a part of me that was like, great, racism is over. You know, we're good. We're through this. And I think that was definitely a belief system of a lot of white women and white people, and coming to terms with the injustices and the things that are still perpetuated here in our prison system, in our education system, and in all of our systems, right? Because our country has been built on white supremacy, and just really being able to look at that, acknowledge that, see that, and see what that looks like. I think once you have that awareness, you can't not do something with it. You can't just look away and keep going. So
well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you sharing that, and for being vulnerable and letting your emotions show, because yeah, I totally relate, and I know when everything was going on with the Black Lives Matter, and and George Floyd and everything, I was really, I had just started the podcast. It had only been going on for about 6 months, and I started really seeking out voices, and to be able to put people on the show who could talk about that, and I would say, I don't know, please, I'm a woman of privilege, a white woman, and I don't understand, and I want to, and I know it's difficult to be able to have conversations. And one thing I know that it does seem like it's still crazy, and people can feel hopeless, and at the same time, I have seen that there are a lot of people out there who are reaching out and are um, wanting to engage in dialogue, like someone like yourself. And so if we can continue to do that and continue to reach out and be able to communicate with one another, I think the tide will shift. And I think it really is women who are going to help to do that, who are really going to be able to. We've had this patriarchal society too many thousands of years now, and we need to swing the pendulum back and bring some feminine energy in. And so we'll get
yeah,
there. It's
yeah,
it's not going to be easy, but we can persevere and get there.
yeah. I love that message of hope. And yeah, it just, I do think it is going to be women leading this path. Um, and just, yeah, like you named, just moving forward and starting with acknowledging where we've been,
Mhm.
because like any kind of healing work, it can't happen without the acknowledgement of right where you're at, and like,
Yeah.
the work you do, Gloria, and the work I do is really about seeing what's happening for that person. And within the social justice realm, that has to happen too. We have to say, this is where we came from, this is what we're still working on, this is what's still an issue, this is still hurting people. And
Right.
so you can't move forward without doing that work. And it sucks, it's hard,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really, really hard. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But we'll get there. So
Yes.
well, I before we close out today, I would want to be able to, of course, invite any of our listeners who've listened to you today and want to be able to maybe feel like, ooh, I really need to get in touch with Erin and talk about some things. What is the best place for folks to connect with you?
Sure. Well, I have a PDF that I know everyone always says this, but this is actually true. I've been rewriting, moving things around in my life. I have a PDF that I'm about to make part of my paid package. So I would really encourage you to reach out and grab it before I do that, which will be in the next couple of weeks. I'll make sure it's after our podcast, but yes. um, it's a guide to overcoming your subconscious blocks to money. So it's really helpful. Like I said, it's really juicy, and I'm moving it away from free, and I'm going to make it in as part of the paid package that I do. So on money mindset. And I definitely encourage you to grab that, as well as I have a free Facebook group that I think is where we met, Gloria, actually.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's called the Spiritual Women Entrepreneurs Collective, and it's for women and those who identify as women. And you are always welcome, if you are an entrepreneur, to do your own Facebook Live in there at any time. So it's a great place to connect and meet other women and women entrepreneurs. So would love to have you in there if you're not already. And yeah, and of course, you can always find me on my website too. So,
Okay. All right. And that is, I believe, erinnewman.com. I think I have
yep,
it down here.
very
So,
easy.
all
Yep.
right. And they can grab the PDF there? Or is
Uh,
there a different place for them
yes,
to get
it
the PDF?
can. I'm just trying to think about. Yes, it's on the footer, so they can grab it
Okay. All right.
there.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and sharing with us some wisdom and uh, some ways for folks to be able to realize that uh, journaling is a good start to be able to release these things that are holding you back, and you can be successful. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Gloria. This was awesome. This
All
was really
right.
fun.
And thank all of you out there who have been watching and who are listening on the replay. I absolutely appreciate you and encourage you to, if you are liking what you're hearing, to either comment or leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. And until next time, as always, I encourage you to go out today and every day and live fully, love deeply, and engage authentically.